So welcome back to our quick and simple guide on painting Napoleonic Russian line infantry. In this video you'll learn an easy and efficient technique to paint these miniatures fast, so let's get started. If you haven't already, please like and subscribe, and then let's get into the video. So I start off by priming with a grey primer. You could do black, you could do white, really it comes down to personal preference. I just find that grey is a good in-between colour. After we've primed, first job that I do is I go in for their trousers, which were white. For that I use ice white from Game Colour. And at this stage, I mean, you could just go in, because white is quite easy to cover, and just go quite thick and fast the whole line, front and back, but I prefer to just take a little bit more time over it. And avoid doing that, just so that way later on it doesn't require me to go back through and do a tidy up job. So these miniatures here I purchased when I was planning on rebuilding my Prussian army, which I thought I'd lost, but it turned out it was in a box in my sister's attic for some reason. So I'd ordered some of these because they would actually be a bit of a proxy for some Prussian Grenadiers, I believe they were, I can't remember now. But then I found the Prussians, so these became available, so I figured, well, why not build a Russian army with the miniatures that I have left over. So we're doing Russians and Austrians at the moment. So I believe these are Russian guards of some description. I can't remember which ones specifically, but I will try and post that down below. They are from Bacchus 6mm. Yeah, they do a great range of Napoleonics, so I really recommend you look into them if you're interested in 6mm. So next up we're doing the Tunics. And I use German camo bright green from Model Colour. I find this stands out quite nicely, especially at distance. You could go a darker green, but again, as I often do for the smaller scales, I will go for a slightly brighter colour, just so they do stand out a little bit on the tabletop. Yeah, I'd be interested to know how many of you are currently collecting Russians or are about to start collecting Russians. What is it that got you interested in your armies and the period? Please leave some comments down below, and if you get a chance and feel like it, some photos uploaded to the Facebook page would be good, just that we can see. Also, what scales do you prefer to use? Do you prefer small scale 6mm, sort of mid-range 15 to 20, or do you like the larger 28 to 32mm. I mean, I always feel all scales have their pros and cons. I like small just for speed painting, but also for the sheer effect on the table. But I do like the larger miniatures just for actually doing a bit of quality painting for a change. So yeah, leave some comments below, just put in what you think. So next up we're going to do the Shakos, the boots and the ammunition pouches or boxes, and I use black from Game Colour. So I like this colour for doing leather work just because it does have a little bit of shine to it. Some of you probably heard that every single video I've done so far, might be getting bored of it, but this is just for anyone new. It does come up a little bit, it's not full gloss but it's sort of semi-gloss, so I quite like it because it stands out quite nicely. However, if you don't want that, if you want your colours to be matte, then I would advise probably looking for a different black from elsewhere. But for me, I quite like it, especially at the smaller scales, because it does help those things to just stand out a little bit more. Plus it goes on very easily. So whilst we're on the topic of Russians, interested to know which of you have watched the War and Peace films, and which of the versions did you prefer? Did you prefer the 1956 version, which is in black and white, the very, very long one from 1966-67, which, to be honest, I like a lot. I mean, the Battle of Borodino scene in that one is, I think, longer than the Battle of Waterloo film from 79, whenever it came out. So yeah, that's pretty impressive. Or there was the TV series of it, which came out about 2016, I think it was. But yeah, interested to know which one did you guys think was best. Next up, we're going to do the muskets and the packs, and I use leather brown from Game Colour for this. Again, it's quite a light brown, so it does stand out quite nicely. And we will be putting a wash on later on, so that'll just dull it down a little bit. And other than War and Peace, are there any war films? I guess there's the Charge of the Light Brigade, but that's a little bit out of Napoleonic range. Can you think of any other films that were set during the Napoleonic Wars, which focus either on the Prussians, Russians, or the Austrians? I'm quite interested to see. I was watching... was I watching or was I reading? I was reading something anyway about the Rod Steiger Waterloo film, that there was actually originally a lot more filmed involving the Prussians, both during the battle itself and the Battle of Ligny. But for whatever reason, the director didn't chuck it in, he left it. So possibly that footage is somewhere in a basement, but more likely it's been lost forever, unfortunately. But yeah, it'd be interesting to know if you guys know of any other films or series that you thought are worth watching, because I'm always up for something new or something old. I did find a film, I can't remember what it was called, I'll have to check it out. The other day I was just searching on YouTube, and it was a German film. I think it was made in the 30s or 40s possibly. Yeah, I can't remember what it was called, but that was a big massed battle film. Lots and lots of things. I'm not sure quite how realistic it was, but that was pretty interesting. One day I'd like to have enough computing power to be able to take clips from all these different films and slice them together to make a super long additional part for the Battle of Waterloo film, so that we can get an extended Battle of Ligny, Quatre Bras, and Wavre all rolled into one. But I dream. So next up we do the bayonets, and I use silver from Game Colour. It's a bright silver colour, which works nicely with the smaller scales, especially when you put a dark wash over them. It still remains clean and sort of crisp, but not quite so bright. So yeah, on the smaller scales, I think this works nicely. And it's quite a smooth paint to put on. It doesn't clog up or go lumpy. It always stays nice and easy to apply. So yeah, I do like it a lot. And then we come to the skin tone. So for this we use Flat Flesh from Game Colour. It's a nice bright flesh tone, perfect when you put the sort of dark brown wash on later on. It dulls it down a little bit, but it is a good colour. Only critique is it does sometimes go a bit gloopy, especially if it's a hot day, so you do want to add a bit of flow improver to it just so that you can avoid that. Otherwise sometimes you'll put paint on an area and then you'll go back over it with your brush and it pulls the whole chunk of paint off with it, so yeah, just keep that in mind. So question for you guys. In this and the previous couple of videos, I've been basically not chopping too much out of it and just allowing you to see the sort of time period that it takes me to paint them, more or less in real time. But at the same time trying to keep the videos as quick as possible to around that sort of 10 to 14 minutes. Is that something you like, or would you rather I chop out chunks and then just reduce it right down to like a 8 to 10 minute video? Just leave your comments below so I can get an idea. So now we've applied the dark wash and let that dry. For that I just did brown with a touch of black. And now it's time to do the facing colours. So I use System Freeze Crimson Red for these chaps. If you've got a very fine detail brush and or you're a very good painter, you could do the collars, whereas I just went for the cuffs because I didn't want to risk ruining what I'd already done, but entirely up to you. Again, that's the beauty of the small scale, is as long as there's a bit of colour, your eye and your mind can kind of fill in the remainder. But yeah, just take your time, and it seems to work out pretty nicely. And off screen around this time, which I didn't record for some reason, I used the foundation colours again to highlight the mini and pick out any details that are needed. On the Shakos, for instance, there's white cording, so at this point in time we would do that. And then the final touches are the Shako plates, and on the ammo pouches, just doing the brass work, and we use bright bronze from Game Colour, which again, like the silver, works. It's quite a smooth colour, sorry. It doesn't go gloopy, stays wet for a reasonable amount of time, so recommend this colour a lot. But yeah, just use a nice fine detail brush just to pick out all of the little bits. Then all that's required is a bit of flocking and your miniatures are ready to go. So I hope that you've enjoyed this video, my first foray into the Russians. I hope it's been helpful. Please leave a like and a subscribe, and please leave some comments down below about the different things that we've talked about today, and tell me what you want to see next, and I will try and get around to doing it. But until next time, thanks for watching guys, and take care.